It was the little cub tracks that we kept finding. Yeah, they're having a wonderful time now. And chewing sticks in exactly the same way as a young dog or cat might, and that of course is to maintain health of the teeth. And I think you'll find when they start to get their big teeth, which I think is around 5 or 6 months, well, they're going to need to chew things in the same way that human beings need those funny teething rings. Excuse my coughing. Then, interesting question about... Sorry, I've completely lost it. I've lost the name and the question. Sorry about that, Louise. Let's have it again. Ah, yes, Fran. Fran, you want to know if there's a maximum sustainable size for pride. Fran, in theory, no, but in practice, yes. So what you will find is that a pride in this area, when it reaches about 20 lions, will become unsustainably large, and it will probably split. And that's excluding cubs. So when it becomes 20 adults, so let's pretend that Amber Eyes and her cohort the other side each have 3 cubs, which is quite possible. That would bring the total number of the pride to 21. 5 lionesses, and it would be 14 cubs by then, which means it's 19, not 21 at all. And that would be sustainable, even if they all grew up within the pride. I think that would be sustainable in this area, but I think it would probably be at the limit of what they could cope with here. I think beyond that, it would probably then start to split. And it doesn't split in... That's ridiculous. It doesn't split in a way that there's any animosity at all. They'll just kind of break away from each other, and then as the generations progress after that, so they will become less and less friendly. So where this pride, let's say in 2 years' time, or 2.5 years' time, the young lionesses here were to have cubs as well, and then the pride could easily, conceivably go to 30 very, very quickly. It would probably split, and those 2 prides would be sometimes seen together, and then not so much, and then less and less frequently until they weren't seen with each other at all, and then their territories would split completely, especially as the generations then went down. But you do get lions sometimes, and I think Brent will tell you of a big pride around Singita Labomba, where he used to work. Mum is very cross now. Where there were 40 lions at one stage, and at a place called Ngala, where I used to work, we did have a pride at one stage of about 32 lions, but they were not sustainable, and both those prides, I think, eventually split up. She's just getting a little irritating there, having a bit of a snarl. In fact, she's getting very irritated. There she comes over the top. I think she's now trying to spread the load a bit. She's trying to get close to the other lionesses to maybe fob off the little ones. And then just reaffirming their social bonds there. It is so amazing to watch them being so affectionate now. But as soon as we go anywhere near to kill time, look, they are obviously much less friendly with each other. That is a wonderful shot there of a lion, little lion cub, just lying on the back of a lioness, and now, well, thinking about having a good chew of her spinal column to see what that tastes like. I don't know if you can hear that. There's the odd bit of growling coming from the adults. Wasn't too far from walking into them when we got out of the car to have a look at the tracks. But I'm quite glad I didn't step into this lot, especially as they were so silent. You know, when we moved in here, they've now got a little bit active, but they were completely asleep, which means the chances, if you're tracking them on foot, of giving them a fright by you know, getting close, not seeing them standing on a branch. They don't care, these little things. They can't afford to. They can't afford to do anything other than fight for their food. That is what they will have to do as adults. She's poor, this poor lioness, desperately trying to move away from them. She's being followed by one. Now I think that's a 12-week-old being followed closely by a teddy bear of 8 weeks old. Perhaps that's Hansel and Gretel. I think it was two of those that age that got lost. See the two different sizes? You can see very clearly there. And if ever you wanted evidence that lions allo-suckle, in other words, suckle each other's cubs, well, there you are. Oh, another teddy bear coming down towards them. You see how they don't lose their tempers, these lionesses. It is amazing. They get cross, but they don't lose their tempers. He's so cross now. Hello Robin B, you're wondering about the 25% survival rate of lions, and you say at what age do we consider them to be part of that 25%? Which is a good question. Robin, the males, 1 in 10, will make it to territoriality. So I would say that, well, say independent. So I would, I would say Junior, who is now independent of the pride but hasn't set himself up yet, I'd put him as one of the 1 in 10. He's now an adult lion. But so I wouldn't say a male before he was had left the pride. So 3.5 to 4 years old, I would say then he was part of that 1 in 10. The females, say 3 in 10 or so. Once they reach sexual maturity, so once they reach 2 to 2.5 years, I would put them as adults. Remember, they go through a relatively vulnerable stage, then they start to move with the pride, and they're not quite so vulnerable anymore, like now. That's around now because they are still deriving all of their nutrition from milk. Oof, this lioness is getting very cross now. Isn't that awesome? To wean the cubs now? No, not yet. But she might be. I don't know who's the mother of who here. But she might be the mother of the oldest cubs, in which case she will. She won't be finishing her milk yet. You know, I mean, they wean at 6 months or so. So, you know, 15 weeks is not quite there yet. 15 weeks isn't even 4 months yet. So I don't think so, no. I really don't think there's any attempt to wean. I think she's probably just sick and tired, to be honest, as many parents get with their youngsters. I don't think there's any difference there. There we've got 2 teddies, all 3 teddies actually, aren't they? No, there's one older one. There goes the 3rd teddy now following behind. They are going to get themselves into a lot of trouble. And interesting that they're only trying to feed from the one lioness, and I think she could well be the mother of the teddies. And I'll tell you why I think that. I think that she has produced incredible amounts of milk because her youngsters, to start with, were so fat. They were in such excellent condition. They still are. And I think that's why everyone's after her milk. But this is going to end badly for them. They're just going to get, she's just going to get more and more irritated. Oh, there she is. She's being a little bit more tolerant now. I really think this pride has got the most wonderful potential at the moment. I think that they really have produced these cubs at the perfect time. Miserable time for lots of the herbivores, but absolutely brilliant for a pride of lions like this with new cubs. So I think this is an excellent opportunity for the Nkuhuma Pride to recover their losses after the territorial takeover that the Birmingham boys effected. Well, we're going to sit here for a little bit longer and see what happens here. In the meantime, Taylor has got the relatives of the hapless prey that this pride has been eating for the last few months.
So we've come across a little breeding herd of buffalo. We're now looking at a big male, well actually two males, as you can see in the left hand corner and the right hand corner of your screen, and the rest of the herd has already crossed over the road and down into the thicket. So we're going to just watch these two gentlemen, or three gentlemen actually, we've got another one at the back there, munching away. And it's been quite interesting while we've been sitting here. We have been watching them do a lot of browsing, which most of you who are regular followers of the show or just have a keen interest in the African animals, is that buffalo don't do a lot of browsing. They are predominantly grazers. However, in these times of the year when there is not very much for them to eat, they are known to feed on round leaf teaks. I think that's their favorite tree to browse on. But we did see one eating a guarri tree earlier, and there's been a lot of talk over the past few weeks about how guarri trees aren't actually very favorable. You can see this bull here as he mows through the leaf litter trying to get some grass that's underneath it. He is picking up a few leaves from the bush willow tree. Obviously it's not that great. I'm just going to reposition very quickly because they seem to be coming out behind us. Where we will wait patiently for them to come out again and get a nice view. Oh, that's good. Oh, parked up on a little crest. Buffalo are such wonderful creatures. I like to think of buffalo and wildebeest as the models of the bush. So buffalo and wildebeest are both in the Bovidae family. Obviously the buffalo are the plus size models, and then we have the wildebeest who are, I think, the runway models. They're more on the slender side of things. I'm hearing some elephants in the distance as well, which is quite nice, which will be very exciting for maybe a little bit later. Look at these horns. Look at all, you can actually see bits of bark that's stuck on the keratin of the horn, and that's most likely from one of the bush willow trees. We've been seeing a lot of sort of score marks on the trees from where the buffalo have been rubbing their horns. You can see that nice little reddish brown color that has attached itself to the boss. So for those of you who don't know how to tell the difference between male and female buffaloes, these three buffalo that we've got here and that we've been watching, and Brian has kindly zoomed in nicely, look at that big helmet on his head. So we call that a boss, and females do not have a boss on their head. Their horns are a lot more slender, and they sort of just come to a little point. So that is probably the easiest way, and also, like most men are Oh my goodness, I apologize. I'm super tongue-tied the last few days. But the buffalo are normally much larger, got a bit more muscle than the females do. You can see them munching away. I mean, how uncomfortable would that be? You can see where this male buffalo is sticking his head right into all the leaves. You'd think that maybe a stick is poking his eyes, something like that. All of them all got their heads tucked in the thick stuff. But no, it's not bothering them too much. Look at that. Doesn't mind at all. We've got the babblers in the background, all shouting away. It's so beautiful and peaceful this morning. I'm one to actually just sit and enjoy the quietness of the bush. I really love to hear it, all the different sounds. So I think we're going to take a moment just to hear a combination of the birds as well as the rustling of the leaves from the buffalo. Anything he possibly can to get the best or the last of the food that is available in the bush. Look at that long tongue. Now they're not too far away from the lions, or where the lions were this morning. So apparently earlier today, a few moments ago, somebody actually said that there was an injured buffalo running around on quarantine. And I went to have a quick look to see if I could find it. And I couldn't find anything, surprisingly. So possibly the buffalo that was there has disappeared. And apparently the lions this morning as well were covered in blood, but there was no kill around. So what I think had happened is maybe those lions had actually managed to single out one of these buffalo from this herd and grabbed it, but didn't successfully bring it down. And I think that buffalo was very lucky to get away. Very, very lucky. These chaps look quite happy. They don't look too bothered at all. So beautiful this morning. It's this last one that hasn't crossed the road. And this is what the lions will also be looking for. Is they're going to be looking out for buffalo that are not concentrating on what they're doing and getting left behind the herd. Obviously they'll have a better chance to take down a buffalo that's not in the middle. I'm sure you've also seen it before on many documentaries where buffalo have got such a good relationship, a good social bond with each other, that if one does get off a distress call, they'll actually come in and try and help each other and chase away the threat. Got the lovely feet there. You can see the false hooves now. Beautiful. Look at all that. I haven't seen too many ticks on these buffalo. Yankees girl, so that's a lovely question. Yankees girl wants to know the gestation period for buffalo and for wildebeest. Now, for buffalo, it's a little bit longer than wildebeest. For buffalo, it's about 11 months, so about 330 days or so, give or take. And then for wildebeest, for the blue wildebeest, that's what we're going to chat about here, the gestation is 250 days, give or take. Obviously, what happens when one animal, especially in a group of animals like wildebeest, they want to give birth around the same time or within a relatively close period of each other, because if you only have one calf and then 3 weeks later you have another calf, the chances of survival of those calves is not going to be really good. So they try and sort of sync within a few weeks, or maybe a 2-week period of when they start giving birth. So one will give birth and then everybody will catch on the trend and hopefully give birth at the same time, and then that gives them a much better chance of survival with all the predators. Obviously, otherwise the hyenas will just hang around and pick them off one by one. So it's good. Safety in numbers, that's a very, very important thing. So I'm just going to roll down a little bit further forward. We're going to go electric, and we've got some more buffalo over here. 2 boys, the rest of the herd is moving into the thicket, down into a drainage line. Obviously, like I said yesterday afternoon, with the animals, a lot of the animals hanging around the drainage lines is because it is the last area of feeding. A little bit of green leaves on the trees and possibly a few bits of grass growing on the banks as well. I'm going to spend a little bit more time with these buffalo and just see what they get up to. I'm also going to keep a close eye out for that injured buffalo that I was telling you about. Hopefully we do find it, and I'll then be able to confirm if it was what I suspected, that the lions perhaps tried to catch this buffalo and weren't successful. Let's go back to the Nkuhuma cubs and see if they are still fighting for milk.
Things do seem to have calmed down here slightly. This one that has been sleeping in front of us has deigned to look up briefly, just resting on his little paws, her little paws. I think that's a little female. And then in the background there, the rest of the little cubs are lying with the 2 adults. I can't really get any closer, I'm afraid. We might try and go back to our original position in just a little while, but we are about to be joined by a school. And so I think we'll wait here until they join us, and then we'll see if we can't get a slightly better position. And I'll just quickly tell you, before the schools join us, one is a private school in Johannesburg, and they have hooked up with I suppose a community school. Yeah, it could well have been put together by the community in a slightly less salubrious part of Johannesburg town, and that's wonderful that they've come together, and together they're going to enjoy the wilderness of this great country. There, that's spotting. Siberia Zoomi, if I'm assuming you're still watching, you can see there that very clear spotting. And I think this is one of the older ones, about 15 weeks old. Isn't that lovely? I think these are beautiful, beautiful little cats, and covered as they are in buffalo gore, of course. That's the little feet that we were following, Viam, you know. And you can see there on the tail, the pom-pom has not yet started to form. And we had a question the other day as to when that pom-pom does start to form, and I couldn't really answer it. Hello Shell, you're wondering about lions and their teeth and whether they get a second set of teeth as they get older. Shell, they do absolutely get a second set of teeth, and that second set of teeth comes round about weaning time, I think. So probably just after 6 months or so they will start to get their second set of teeth. As far as I'm aware, and I had a conversation with the vet about this the other day, he wasn't quite sure himself, but as far as I'm aware, all mammals with teeth, I think, have milk teeth and they're permanent teeth. And you know, the needle-like things they have when they're little puppies are replaced by slightly blunter versions of the same thing as they lose their sort of big teeth. I remember the first time I saw a puppy lose its teeth, I thought it was desperately, I thought it was a desperate problem, because I didn't realize that dogs also had milk teeth and permanent teeth. This lion in no hurry to go anywhere soon. And I think it's quite telling, or it's perhaps fairly obvious, that that is one of the older ones. The one just behind, also fast asleep, is one of the older ones. And I think they would have got a lot more out of that meat meal that they've been having over the last 4 days than perhaps the others have. And that's why they're sleeping so soundly. Remember, and this is key, we're often asked, why do lions sleep so much? And the answer is, I think, has a huge amount to do with the diet and the fact that these lions eat meat largely. There's no fat or carbohydrate in the diet, which means it's expensive for them to produce energy. And so if they only eat meat, they must sleep a great deal. And interestingly, these older cubs, which are definitely eating more meat than the others and drinking less milk than the others, you'll find that they now have to sleep more than the others do. The others still on a rich diet of fatty milk, and there's plenty of energy for them to run around. And I mean, the evolutionary advantage and essentiality of that is that they need to play. They have to be able to play at this time of their lives, because that's how their muscles and their nervous systems form fully. And that's why that very fatty milk is massively important. And Timothy, you're wondering how much they sleep. Well, an adult lion sleeps almost as much as the average Sabi Sand Ranger, which is about 20 hours of the day. 20 hours of the day is what a lion is able to sleep. These little cubs, you can tell, if you've been watching for a little while, sleep much less than the adults do. There's also theory that they sleep a lot because of the fact that they're not so good at losing heat, so they can't afford to move around so much, and I just don't buy any of that. I think that you'll find most carnivores have to do this amount of sleeping, except, interestingly, wild dogs. Wild dogs tend to be more active in short bursts, but remember, they often kill twice a day, and they make a huge deal of eating the organs. A smaller pack eating the organs of the animals gives them a slightly higher fat diet, I think, perhaps, than things like these lions, which are largely based on protein. In the background, the crested francolin singing its late alarm call of the morning. Right, I'm not sure what's happening with the school drive, so let's just try and move now. I'm sure they'll join us shortly, but let's just try and move now so I can get a slightly better view of these little cubbies. VMP, watch out for your second favourite tree behind us there. It wouldn't do to have you attacked by a Ziziphus on the day of your leave, would it? Excuse me, everybody. You say that'll be nice?
No, it won't.
That won't be nice. Yes, I see what you mean. Excuse my coughing and spluttering. Just before we go in here, VMP, won't you just point the camera down there to that last buffalo kill? Well, not the last buffalo kill, but that was a buffalo kill. And it was in this area that they pretty much pushed that buffalo down off a near sheer vertical cliff. And then we think he perhaps broke something, and they devoured him there. It was also there that one of these cubs was injured, and the great and dire predictions as to its eventual demise were made. It's broken its hip, it's broken its pelvis, it's going to die, there's nothing we can do. Should we intervene? No, we can't intervene. And They're fine. That is a horrible noise, Viam. To ease our way in here, but we don't want to give these little things a fright. Yeah. I'm going to push slightly forward now, but we just, I think, might have to accept that we don't have the best view in the world. You're right there, Vim. Tell me if I need to stop. This is a rough area.
Everybody, remember how I was just telling you about how somebody said that they saw a buffalo that was injured running around on quarantine? I just found it. However, it's in some thick bush, so we're just trying to find the best road to view it on. We're actually going to go back to where we were and have a little look. Not looking very well, I'm afraid, and I think it was those lions that had a go at it this morning and just didn't quite manage to take it down completely. So just excuse me just for a few seconds. I just want to make sure I get my bearings right again as to where we saw it. It was moving into some thick bush, you see, trying to keep out of sight. And well done to that buffalo for managing to get away. That's pretty spectacular. You know, there were 3 female lions and 1 big male lion that attempted to bring this buffalo down. We just want to very quickly try. Okay, there's the bum. We need to look through this gap. Can you see it through there, Brian? Okay, look at that. Look up on sort of towards where the wither is. Can you see that? That is flesh and blood that you are looking at the moment. And this is definitely... We're going to very quickly go back to James. James is back again. I'm going to stick with this buffalo and see what he gets up to.
There we are, everybody. We moved into a different position. Sorry you lost signal there. It was because I knocked the aerial over, moving through some thick bush. This is about as good as it's going to get, I'm afraid. Sorry, the game drive radio very clearly hasn't heard that we found these things, so I'm going to have to call it in again, which is deeply frustrating. Now, Rodine School, what a joy it is to have you with us. Welcome on our little morning safari. I hope you're having a good time there in Johannesburg. Of course, if there's any time to be in Johannesburg between September, October and November, possibly the most beautiful time Johannesburg has to offer, especially in the leafy suburbs where your school is situated. It's good to have you with us, and I hope you enjoy your little safari this morning. My name's James. On camera is Viam. Hello, Viam. That's Viam's very long thumb that you can see. Viam is not, in fact, a very long man. He's a bit about my size. But over here, we have the cubs and lionesses of what we call the Nkuhuma Pride. A truly beautiful little pride of lions. Hello, Bella. You're wondering how old the youngest lion is here. Bella, the youngest lion here is 8 weeks old. And if you look carefully, there, that's probably one of them there. That's a little fat 8-week-old lion. And just like Bella has, everybody, it's great to have questions from you. So please feel free to ask any questions you like about these animals and what we do here. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. So Bella, we've got 8-week-old lions. We've also got, I think, 12-week-old lions and also 15-week-old lions. So there are 3 litters. The first one, 3 cubs. The second one, 2 cubs. The third one, 3 cubs as well. And the 3 lionesses here, they're mothers. The other 2 in a position that you can't actually see them. Hello, Kensani. You say, why do they grow up so fast? Well, Kensani, I'm assuming that you're asking the question because you realize that human beings don't grow up quite at the same speed. Kensani, the reason that they grow up more quickly than humans is basically the reason that makes you human. versus them, and that of course is the size of your brain. The human being has an enormous brain, and that brain takes a very long time to grow and to mature and to learn all the things that it needs to learn. And that's one of the reasons that human beings have to stay with their families for so long. It's one of the reasons they grow up so very slowly. But lions and all the other animals out here, well, they don't have brains anything like the same size. And so life is just, I suppose, from a brain point of view, that much more simple. They don't have to worry too much about anything other than finding enough to eat. I'm just going to I'm going to have to talk on the Game Drive radio, everybody. Rebecca, I'll get back to you now. There are other people trying to get into the sighting. Stations, you trying to find this pride? I'm just talking to the other rangers. Okay, copy. I'm just live at the moment, so I can't be on the radio. Animals on the same place they were, just to the south of Buffelshoek Dam, on Hippo Pools Road, just west of the road. Okay, everybody. Rebecca, you had a lovely question for me. Please, let's have it again from Louise. She'll give it to me. She's directing the show. You want to know how old these lions are when they leave their parents. Well, Rebecca, the females don't leave their parents ever. Well, they don't leave their mothers. They will stay within the pride with their mothers forever. The males, however, will get tossed out of home when they're about 3 to 3.5 years old. Their fathers will say, no more, you go find your own way in life. Now, that might sound a little bit harsh, but there's some very good reasons for it. The interesting thing, of course, is that the fathers play no role at all in raising the cubs. So you know, of course, that if you were to think about a good father, and I'm sure many of you think that your fathers are the best fathers in the world, that's because they're involved in your life, and they help you with your homework, and they provide for you. In this case, it really doesn't happen like that. And I know all of you would have seen The Lion King, and it would have looked a little bit like the male lions there play a big role in raising the cubs. That isn't the case at all. The mums are solely responsible. And then, when the males get old enough, when they reach adulthood, then their fathers are threatened by them, and so they send them out of the territory, and they have to go and find their own territory quite a long way away from home. The females stay within the territory, within their what we call natal territory. Everything is very peaceful here. Remember, lions are completely nocturnal. Sorry, my communication's a bit bad. Louise, can you go again with that last one? Sophie, you're wondering about the hunting side of these lions and when they start to hunt. Sophie, I wonder if you have a house cat at home. And I wonder if you've ever known a kitten. Well, you will know that a kitten will basically start hunting the minute it's born. In other words, it will chase little balls of wool, if you like. It'll chase toys and balls that are rolled in front of them and play with bells. That's all part of hunting behavior. When they succeed hunting for the first time, though, is probably after 6 months, when they will try and catch little things like birds and that sort of thing. But they'll only truly learn to hunt with the pride when they're about 18 months old. That's 1.5 years. So when they're about 1.5 years old, they'll learn to sort of hunt properly with the pride. But for a long time, they make a mess of the hunting. So you know that, of course, they hunt together, and that they hunt in a team. But it's almost like the youngsters have to learn, they have to ruin a number of the hunts first before they learn not to step there or not to step here and not to stand on leaves and twigs to make not to charge too soon and not to make the prey aware of them. So it takes quite a long time for them to learn that process, and they make a big mess of many of the hunts before they're about 18 months to 2 years old. Hello, Nkeleso. You're wondering about how long they can last without food and water. Nkeleso, well, again, it depends quite a lot on the age of the cubs. So the very little ones which are drinking milk, well, they don't ever have to have water at all. They can survive without water forever. Well, until they get too old to drink milk. But then when they get to adulthood, they don't always have to drink water at all, but they will. So they'll choose to drink water quite often, especially when it's hot. So if they can, they might drink once a day, but they can probably go for at least a week and a bit without drinking water. And if they're eating, remember there's a lot of water in their prey. So if they kill a buffalo, which is what they killed 2 nights ago, you'll find that they don't have to drink at all, but they will choose to every so often. Food, they can probably go 2 weeks without food in Keleso before they will be in big trouble. They can comfortably go a week, though, without food. Can you imagine going a week without food? You'd be a very hungry person. How they hunt. Remember, they hunt in a team. So how would that black at the back of the ears help them with those two things? Think about that for 2 seconds, and then I'd like an answer, Ariana, from you. You can gather the answers from the rest of the class. Why would lions have a black on the back of their ears? And I'll give you a small clue. It's the same reason they have black on the back of their tails. So while you think about that, we're going to sit with these very, very sleepy kitties. Let's head across to my friend Taylor, who has got some wild cows to show you.
Welcome everybody at the Rodine School. I'm so happy to be able to spend the morning with you. My name is Taylor, and on camera we've got Brian and the Thumb. Look at his wonderful piano tie. How cool is that? The Thumb is a very important member of our show, and he sings in little jokes every now and then. So welcome all the lovely children who are watching the show. We've actually got some buffalo, so take a look at what James described as a wild cow, which is not too far. I actually want to introduce you to a friend of mine who Brian is panning over to now. Have a look at him. I'm hoping he's going to turn his head towards us, but this buffalo his name is One-Horned Sean. Going to go forward actually just a little bit. Maybe he's going to lift his head up for us. He's been doing such a good job. No, now he's going the other way. Okay, we'll stay here. Maybe he's going to turn around. But this buffalo, when he eventually looks at us, is a big male buffalo, and they're very easy to tell the difference between the two, between the male and the female. But I really, really, really want to show you his broken horn. It's quite exciting. So I have a question for all of you. When he eventually looks at us, what do you think would have caused this buffalo to lose his horn? Remember, we are dedicating a section of our show to chatting to the wonderful students of the Rodine School, and we're so happy to have you all here. I always say this, I wish that I had the opportunity to do what you are all doing and spend some time during your school hours to watch a live safari. Good morning, Michaela. I hope you're having a lovely day. Michaela wants to know, how is the drought affecting the reserve? And Michaela, as you can see, it's very dry. It's quite sad, actually. Now, this is normal in the winter months. However, for the last few years, we haven't had a proper rainfall. So the thing that it's affecting most is not that there was a lack of water, but there was actually not enough food that was grown this year. So the animals are very hungry. Though these buffalo seem to be in really good condition for the moment, but there are a few, unfortunately, that have succumbed to the drought and unfortunately have passed away. However, it's not always a bad thing. It's very important to have things like droughts in order to control populations and also to get rid of the weaker genetics that maybe shouldn't survive. Remember, natural selection is very important out in the bush. So Michaela, the biggest problem we're having at the moment is food. They're all hungry. Look at this buffalo here, for example. Normally buffalo just eat grass like cows, But unfortunately, as you'll see him munching through this leaf litter, he's going to be picking up a few leaves as he goes along. And their digestive system doesn't really allow for them to digest leaves. Look at him munching over there, using his tongue to find bits of grass and to pull them into his mouth. And my friend One Horn Shaun is not playing along, which is such a pity. Good morning, Rania. Thank you for watching the show. Rania wants to know, how much does an adult buffalo weigh? Now, before I answer that question, I'm going to reverse. Just because we've got a few buffalo on the left of us that are sitting down and actually looking towards us. So I'm just going to change the view a little bit, where we will hopefully see a few more. There we go. You can see they're all scattered through here. So, Rania, it varies slightly. A big male buffalo can weigh up to about 900 kilograms. We get some really big males. The females will be just slightly less of that, maybe between 600 and 700 kilograms. So can you believe that a lion can actually bring down a big animal like a buffalo? For instance, this buffalo that we're looking at now, you can actually see his dewlap, which is just underneath his chin. Can you see that? I know we've got a few sticks in the way. How incredible is that? And normally only the biggest, strongest buffalo get that wonderful dewlap underneath their chin. It's quite a nice way to also see how old they are. Normally very young buffalo, you won't see that dewlap. And look at the oxpeckers. Look what this oxpecker is doing. He's pecking his eye. So this is a bird that is associated with the buffalo, and lots of other mammals that we see while we're on safari. So what these birds are doing is they are the groomers of the African bush. They will hop around on the various animals, though they really enjoy buffalo, and they will actually pick at the ticks. And we've got 2 different species of oxpeckers. Hopefully we'll be able to find some more so I can show you properly. But the one that we just saw, oh, there he is, back on his face again. That is a red-billed oxpecker. And then we also have yellow-billed oxpeckers. Ao wants to know why we don't help injured animals. And it's quite important that we do not intervene with the wildlife. Now, we've intervened slightly. We've obviously put these roads and we drive around with these noisy vehicles, but they're quite used to us. The animals completely ignore us and they go about their daily lives. If we had to help every single animal that was injured, it's not fair. Like I said, natural selection is so important. Some genetics are not supposed to survive. Diseases, injuries, they all happen for a reason. And remember, the predators need to eat too. So for instance, if it perhaps was an injured buffalo, which we actually just saw earlier on, we're not going to help it because it's going to give the lions an opportunity to take that buffalo down. And imagine, for instance, it was a female lion who was very weak and she had a whole lot of cubs and she was starving and she needed to eat something. Now an injured animal would be a perfect opportunity for her to bring it down, especially if she was out all on her own. It may be easier. So we try and let nature take its course as best as we can.
Bella and Gabby, that buffalo lost his horn in a fight with another male to get the alpha male position.
Bella and Gabby, you are absolutely correct. So I asked a question earlier, how do you think One Horn Shaun lost his horn? And Bella and Gabby have guessed correctly. They said that he lost his horn in a fight with maybe another male. And that is 100% true. He definitely would have done that. So males will fight in order to try and compete with the other males and to try and get as many females as possible. You see, with a herd of buffalo, it's a little bit different to, for instance, say zebra and wildebeest, where they have a harem. The big breeding herds of buffalo, they're all quite social, and there's lots of males, lots of females. So there's not just one male that's mating with all the ladies, there's a variety of them. So they're constantly having little battles between each other. But you can see that these buffalo now are sitting down, getting ready to rest for the day. And they will probably ruminate. And so ruminate, they are going to regurgitate the food that is partially digested and re-chew it. So I think we're going to let the buffalo enjoy themselves, and we're not going to disturb them for too much longer. I'm going to send you back over to James, where I think he's still with the lion cubs.
Now, many of you, of course, will have little house cats at home, and if you grab their foot and look at it, that is what it will look like. An almost exact replica. It just won't be quite as big as that, but the same thing you will see. You see those 3 back pads, very clearly defined 3 ridges on the foot, and then the 4 front pads, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's exactly what you'll find on your house cat's foot. So the next, when you get home after school today, go and grab a cat, or cat of a friend even, and have a look at the feet. Just be very careful, of course, and well, don't get scratched or bitten. Be very gentle. That little one there is suckling. Right. So Ariana, you're almost there, and you and your class have come up with 2 very nice little answers for why it is that you think lions might have black on the back of their ears. And the first one is closer to the answer. You say, is it because they hunt in groups and so they need to recognize each other and it helps them recognize each other? I don't think it helps them recognize each other, but it definitely helps them follow each other. There are 2 colors out here that if Viam pans through the bush, you will not see here. And those 2 colors are colors you wouldn't expect. They are colors black and colors white. You will not see plain black and white very often, save for on these animals. And so what you have is a situation that when they are hunting through the bush at night, remember their eyes don't work quite like ours, they work very differently. They will be able to follow each other by following those black patches on the back of the eyes. Look at the little one picking his head up there. They'll be able to follow each other with the back patches on the back of the ears, and also that black pom-pom on the back of their tails. It's very important when they're hunting in the thick bush. It helps them to see each other and helps them not to make a mistake when they're hunting in a big group. As far as heat exchange goes, that's quite a nice idea, and many of you obviously will know that a black color radiates and absorbs heat much better than, say, a white color does. But no, there's not enough black for that to make a difference on these animals. So it's purely, we think, a following mechanism. And in fact, just about any sort of marking that is unusual on the back of an animal is almost always something to do with helping them follow each other through the thick bush. Even in the case of, say, kudu, it's a white flash on the back of the tails. In the case of waterbuck, it's a white ring on the bottom. In the case of leopards, for example, it's white on the bottom of the tail, and that helps the cubs to follow the mother when they're moving through thick bush. So that's generally what happens. Let's have a look over here. I'm just going to show you that we're pretty close by to another line. That line is only about 5 meters away from us, and that's about 16 or 17 feet if you're working in the imperial measure, but obviously none of you are doing that. At Rodin, you're all operating in the metric system, I hope. Erin, I think you asked, how many cubs are there to one lioness? Is that correct? Right, we'll assume it is correct. Erin, normally sort of 2 or 3 or 4, and it can be up to 6, believe it or not. There can be up to 6 cubs per lioness in a litter, but normally they won't survive then. 2 and 3 is the ultimate sort of number. That's the best number for lionesses to be able to cope with. Sometimes 4, they'll all survive, but normally 2 and 3. There you can see an older lioness from the state of her ears there, and of course the grey. See, she's got a bit of grey hair there in her pom-pom, and you can imagine how easy that is to see in the bush if you're looking for it. Now you might think to yourself, as we're talking about these black colours, that when you go into the bush in the darkness, because that's, remember, when they hunt, You'd think that black would be a difficult color to see. But remember, lions' eyes are particularly different from ours. They see much better at night than we do, and they don't see such good color. So what they will see probably when they're walking in front of each other in the very pitch black darkness is gaps. So they'll be able to see almost a hole, be almost like a hole where the lioness in front of them is walking. They'll just see two sort of black holes where the ears are, and I think that probably really helps them to hunt at night in a very cooperative fashion, because if they don't hunt as a team, they don't take down things like the buffalo they killed a few days ago. Let's go back to these ones over here. And Mayuri, you're wondering about how many lions it takes to kill a buffalo. Well, it depends on the buffalo, really. But a big buffalo bull like the one they've been eating would have taken at least these 5 lionesses. Now, normally, probably about 5 lionesses to one big buffalo bull, and there's an even money on who will survive. So we've seen these 5 lionesses attack a buffalo bull and not succeed in killing it. They try and they try and they try, and they just get too tired, and eventually they leave it alone. We've also seen them managing to kill buffalo bulls. But at this time of the year, remember that we're at the end of the dry season, because you know that winter it doesn't rain, but also we had a very bad rainy season last year, as all of you did too, and that means that the animals here that are not, and that means that it takes fewer lionesses to kill a buffalo than it would have, say, at this time last year, when there was a bit more food around for the buffalo, and they were therefore a bit stronger. So maybe 4 or 5 lionesses this time around could kill a buffalo a bit more easily. Normally, lion around, they're very good at killing buffalo. Becca, you've just asked a question that indicates one of the greatest misconceptions or misunderstandings of lions. You say, why is it that only the females hunt? That's not true, Becca. It's not only the females that hunt. The males do a lot of hunting for themselves, otherwise they wouldn't eat. But they also steal a lot. A male lion will steal a huge amount of food if the females kill, and the males just spend most of their time patrolling territory rather than hunting. And that's why they steal most of their food from the females. And often, you know, if the females do kill something, they'll keep very, very quiet, because they don't want the males to come and steal the food. Because when the males come in, they eat first. No other lion is allowed to eat before the males get to eat first. But the males kill a lot on their own. Otherwise, they wouldn't survive. They just don't share it very well. And you know, we have 4 big male lions in this particular area, and they are not very good sharers, A. And B, we've seen them killing buffalo quite often. I think if they're wandering in the night on their territorial patrols and they come across an impala, they'll kill that, but they'll eat it quickly, and so we don't see them eating it. It's only when they're on a very big kill that we watch them eating for any length of time, something like a giraffe or a buffalo. See how sleepy they are? They sleep for 20 hours of the day, these animals. Sophia, you're obviously extremely observant. You say, is there any relevance to the young lions having markings? Yes, there is. They've got spots. And when they're born, they've got lots and lots of spots. And it's because they're born in, say, if we look at down there, into the drainage line there, which is a sort of dry riverbed, you'll find patches of very thick vegetation and the odd small cave, and a very good, you know, those are the kinds of places where a lion is born. And if they're spotted, it means that they're very well hidden. So when the light filters through the trees, it leaves what we call a dappled pattern on the ground, and that's very similar to the spotting that a lion cub has or a leopard has. Remember, a leopard lives in the thick bush all the time, Now, when they get older, when they get to this colour, they're too big to hide in the dappled light, so it's pointless them being spotted, but it's very effective for them to be this tawny colour when they're moving through the woodland, or especially if they're moving through the long grass. They disappear completely. So those spots are purely for when they live in the dappled light of a drainage line in the den site before they start to move with the pride. And you can see they're starting to lose those spots immediately. Very nice question, that. And just above us we can hear some oxpeckers calling. Chip, 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 chip. They're the birds that like to sit on antelope and eat the ticks. But otherwise everything is very, very peaceful out here. Now, I'm not sure how much, I'm just going to ask Louise how much more time we have, because it might be quite a nice idea for us to go back to a male lion that we had this morning. He might be quite a nice one for you to see. So we've got about 15 minutes left with you. So I think, Louise, if Taylor has something, maybe we should go there and we'll try and get to the male. Otherwise, we'll just sit with these ones. But these guys are just not doing a great deal right now, are they? They're very, very tired. So we'll just sit here for a little bit longer while we find out what Taylor's got. But you can feel the peacefulness of the morning all around us. Very few birds calling. We're not quite into the proper sort of breeding time for the birds. When the sun or when the rain eventually starts, that's when we'll have very loud mornings out here. And I think these cubbies are so very sleepy because they're also still full of buffalo. They've been eating a buffalo for four days now, I think it was, or 3 days or so. And so instead of only drinking milk, which is what they normally do, they've drunk, or they've eaten a lot of buffalo, and that means that they're just much more tired than they would be normally. You know that after you've had a very big fat meal, it can make you very tired. Alright, let's head across to the dwarf mongoose that Taylor's got. They're the most special little carnivores. Let's go and see them. Now I'm going to drive very quickly across to where we had a male lion this morning and see if we can't show him to you before you have to get on with the rest of your day.
Look at these funny little creatures that we've got. So everybody, as James said, these are called dwarf mongoose. Look at this one is actually grooming itself. Ooh, that one just scurried away. Now this is the smallest predator of the mammal species that we have in this area. How exciting is that? And they live in big family groups. And they've actually turned this termite mound into their home. So there's quite a few of them running around. And some of them are down off the mound on the ground scurrying through the leaves, while the others haven't quite woken up yet. They were all tucked away in their beds, which is quite exciting. Look, there's another one that's come through. Hello, little mongoose. And they're very sociable little creatures. They groom each other. They talk to each other. They're all very excited by each other this morning. That's really lovely. That's quite interesting, dwarf mongoose, their whole family structure. So very much like with wild dogs, there's a dominant pair. So there's one male, one mom and one dad that will be making all the babies, which is quite exciting. Look at that one there, grooming, lifting its leg up. That is called bush yoga, and the animals are very good at doing it. I cannot do it, and I don't know too many people that can do that position. See, that's a little hole that they'll go inside either to sleep, or if, say, a big bird of prey comes around, you'll actually see them shoot into those little burrows. Look at these chaps, they are so funny. And you can sit and watch them all the time. They're so exciting, especially when they catch something. And I wish that you could hear what I'm hearing, but they're actually all communicating with each other. They're all letting off some very high squeaks. But I think it's not quite loud enough for you to hear. So there you go, you can see two of them grooming each other, which is quite nice. So that's very important in order to strengthen the bond between the different members in this family. It's like how your mom would brush your hair, or if you're you're a lady, would plait your hair, something along those lines. Or your mom comes and gives you kisses, good night kisses, it's all the same. See, that one's going, I'm ready for breakfast. That we're being watched. Just to make sure we don't make any sudden movements. Welcome, Yeovil Community School. How exciting it is to have you here, and thank you for joining us this morning. We're so excited to have you here. You just missed us, and we've just had some lions, which hopefully James is going to find a big male lion for you in a little bit, and we are actually watching some dwarf mongoose. So if you'd like to ask us anything, I really look forward to hearing some of your names and answering some of your questions. We're going to go back to the dwarf mongoose, just see if we can find some more. We've still got one sitting up on that big termite mound that you can see in the distance. You see that? That's a termite mound. And there is a little dwarf mongoose. So just to do a very little recap, just so that you know where we are, is that we are situated on a private game reserve called Djuma in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. And this is all live. And it is so fantastic that you are able to watch this during school hours. Look at this little mongoose. Just waiting, actually watching. I wonder if it's not keeping an eye out for everybody, just to make sure that there isn't any predators coming around. They might let off an alarm call if something like an eagle were to fly over, or if they see a snake. Good morning, Isabella. So Isabella wants to know, what do mongoose eat? Now, these are the smallest predators that we see in this area, out of, like I said, out of the mammal species. I know we've got lots of other different predators too. And these little guys over here love to eat scorpions and beetles and worms and grubs. So you'll often see them digging through the leaves, looking for any insects that they can find. They'll even eat little eggs if they get the opportunity to. But they are all disappearing. I'm actually going to just go forward a little bit. I just want to see if we can see the rest of them, who are actually just sort of out foraging. Oh, there's a few that have just run to the left. We're going to go here, and they're in the termite mound, and we're going to be a little bit patient, and I think they could probably come out. They become quite relaxed. They're all diving inside there. Run away, evacuate. But watch this. He'll sit here quietly, and they're all going to start popping out. Look at them. Hello. Good morning. Wondering, what on earth are you? Oh, that's beautiful. Look at that. How's that shot with all of their heads lined up like that? Maybe you have to ask your teacher to take a few screenshots for you. That is so funny. Ah, look at that. Look at the little, did you see the little dot on that one's head? Look at it looking at us. Like it's got a sticker on his head. Hello, what are you? That is beautiful. Good morning, Sarah. Sarah, you want to know, how big can a mongoose grow? Now, we have a variety of different species of mongoose in Africa, and the dwarf mongoose is actually the smallest. So if you have a look at your ruler, I reckon that an adult won't get too much bigger than the length of your ruler. They are really small little creatures. That's why they're also quite nervous, is because they are so small, is that lots of different things will be eating them, from the snakes to the birds of prey, anything. An African wildcat, a serval, literally anything that eats meat would possibly try and snatch one of these up. But they've got very good eyesight. Botlale, good morning. You want to know, are dwarf mongoose born in any other color? Typically, they're this dark chocolate brown. However, when they are young, they do tend to be a little bit lighter, and then they get their sort of adult coloring in this lovely dark chocolate brown, but not too much of a different color to what the adults are. I think that one's watching us very closely. Lovely little chaps. They have to be one of my favorite animals, the mongoose. They're so entertaining, especially watching them when they've just woken up and they're all just poking their heads out of the termite mound. I think this group has been up for some time. They seem very energetic. They've been running around, looking for lots of things to eat. But it's quite cold though, so I can't imagine they're going to be too successful in finding too many insects this morning. The insects prefer the warm weather. And I'm going to quickly keep quiet because you can hear the high-pitched squeaks of the mongoose. So turn the volume up. Look at those two. Did you hear them talking? They've stopped now. So Famila wants to know how many mongoose are born in a litter. And we're just zooming in onto a lilac-breasted roller that's flying around there making a noise. So normally between 2 and 5 little mongoose are born in a litter. So not too many of them. And it's like I was saying, it's only one mating pair. So there's only one mommy and one daddy, and the rest of them will not give birth. It's quite sad actually, because if another younger subordinate female gives birth, the dominant female will actually kill the other little mongoose, which is unfortunate. You can see that one hiding behind the log, and you can actually see all the feces, all the poop from that little mongoose that was just on the termite mound as well. Look at them running around. See, they're quite happy with us now. They're going to carry on with their day. Good morning, Lynn. Lynn wants to know, how do mongoose keep warm in winter? Well, that is why, Lynn, that they love to live in places like termite mounds. Termite mounds are very well insulated, so it'll be nice and warm in the burrow. And of course, they all cuddle up with each other, and all that soft fur and the heat that's coming off of their bodies will help keep them nice and warm as well. Look at them, very busy. And they're just constantly communicating. It's such a beautiful chorus, just listening to their high-pitched chirps as they move along through this leaf litter. Off they go. All talking, saying, "Hey, Fred, do you have anything?" No, Matilda, I haven't got anything. And Patricia, I heard you say something. Did you get anything? Oh no, false alarm. I wonder. I always try and imagine what these little animals are all saying to each other as they carry on with their day, especially when they are so vocal, like these mongoose, these dwarf mongoose. So I think out of all the species of mongoose, the dwarf mongoose is the most relaxed. They're ones that you can sort of really are able to sit and watch. Other species are not so relaxed, like for instance the slender mongoose, which is much longer and has got a very slender tail. They tend to race off before we can even get a shot of it. But I remember Janie got a very, very good shot of a slender mongoose once. Well, I spend a bit more time with these dwarf mongoose. I'm going to carry on watching them. I believe that James has got a big male lion for you, so I hope you enjoy that.
Hello everybody from the Yeovil Community School. Look at that. That is the traditional king of the jungle, a big male lion. And you know, he weighs probably 220 kilograms. That's an enormous, enormous cat. And he's not even the world's biggest cat, but he's certainly Africa's very biggest cat. Isn't he gorgeous? He's about 5 years old. And he's a wonderful looking fellow. And he's one of what we call the dominant coalition of this area. He and his brothers, there are 4 of them, have taken over this area and they run the joint. They have 2 prides with them, the Nkuhuma Pride, who we've just been watching, with 5 lionesses and 8 little cubs, and 2 of those lionesses are here now with us. They're just off to the left-hand side there. And Rania, you're wondering how old a male cub is when he first gets his mane. Those lions are not dead, everybody, they're just... Rania, a male lion starts to get his mane when he's about a year old. You can start to see it starting to form, but it doesn't ever get to a full, or doesn't become a full mane until he's almost 8, you know. So this lion's mane, and I know he's 5 years old now, it will get even larger. Now you can see he's also gone to sleep. So his mane will become really impressive until he's about 8 years old, and then it'll stay about the same. So a year ago, when these guys came into this area, they had a much, much smaller mane, much less impressive. They looked a little bit like sort of punks. And his hand there, it's very difficult, or his foot, it's very difficult for you to get an idea of his size from the screen there. But basically that hand, or that foot, is the same size as my hand. So if you think of a man's hand, well, a fairly small man's hand, that's how big that lion's paw is. Isn't that amazing? And Shamilia, you're wondering how long they live. Shamilia, I'm going to say that when I give you the answer, you're going to be surprised, because they don't live for a very long time, you know. In captivity, a lion can possibly live up to 20 years, but out here, it's very unusual for a male lion to get beyond the age of 11 or 12, and often it's only around 10. So this lion's about halfway through his life, at least. He might make it to 12. The oldest lion on record seems to have been about 16 or 17 years old. That's in the wild, but mostly not beyond 12. And that's because their lives are hard. You know, it's not because you can see the scars there on his body. That's from fighting with other males, fighting with females at the kills. And the actual act of killing animals to eat takes its toll, you know. It's physically very demanding. And so that all takes its toll, and by the time they are 12 years old, they just really are a little bit beaten up. Savannah, it's a nice name for a bush, for the bush. You're wondering... Oh, sorry, Susanna, not Savannah, Susanna. Hello, Susanna. You... Sorry about that. You're wondering about white lions and how they get like that. Well, it's what we call the genetic condition, which means they don't get like that, they're born like that. And it's what we call leucism. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard of what we call albinism, and that's when any mammal, or doesn't even need to be a mammal, can be a reptile or a bird even, has no pigment in the skin at all, so very pale. A white lion isn't an albino, it's leucistic, and that means that it's just slightly paler. And you see it, you know what the best thing to do is there, especially there in Johannesburg. When you see pigeons, you know the pigeons that fly around the place, you find them in the middle of the city, you'll probably find them at school. You find some of them are pale white, some of them are sort of rich reddish brown, some of them are that almost black color, and they're very different kinds of, or mixtures of those different colors. Now, white pigeon is much the same as a white lion. It's leucistic, so it just doesn't have the same amount of melanin in the skin as do these lions here. And that's why they're that much paler. Now, while we wait and see if this male lion doesn't wake up and show himself instead of lying here like a lazy lump, Taylor has got one of the most iconic birds of Africa, Izazu.
No! We just had a really cool hornbill, a yellow-billed hornbill, but I hear another one calling behind us. I'm going to back up very quickly and just see if we can get this other one. But no, I think it is also flying off. Ah, that's the problem with birds. But never fear, let's just do a quick little loop around. Maybe we can find it again. It was so beautiful sitting right next to my vehicle. But I have another bird for you, which is a really amazing and a really intelligent bird, just sitting up here perched on this tree, and I've got quite a few here. And we've got, firstly, that you're looking at, that is called a fork-tailed drongo, and it is one of my favorite birds too. I think they must be the most intelligent bird in the bush, and the reason why I say this is that not only are they capable of mimicking other bird species, but they're also known to mimic other mammals, so they like to follow those mongoose around, that's all. I've actually heard them making little mongoose noises before, and I must tell you a really amazing story. One day I was sitting with my favorite animal, the elephants, and I could hear the strange noise that sounded like a jackal, but a jackal with a sore throat. And you won't believe it, it was not this particular individual fork-tailed drongo, but it was two fork-tailed drongos that were calling like a black-backed jackal. How exciting is that? I saw another little bird in here called a black-crowned chugrat. Just want to see if it's still around. I didn't see it fly out. And they're beautiful. They've got a lovely call. I'll even play the call for you. Let's see. They like it down in the leaf litter. I just got the drongo flying again. Where did you go? I didn't see that one come out. Maybe it did. Maybe it snuck out. Where is our hornbill? This is where my bird whispering skills would come in handy. Then I would be able to call it. So everybody, unfortunately, that hornbill disappeared, but you'll have to come and watch us again. I just want to say thank you so much to the Yeovil School as well as the Rodine School for joining us this morning, and for the rest of our regular viewers. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves. So thank you so much from myself, and the thumb wants to say a quick goodbye too. I'm going to hopefully see you this afternoon, and I think we're going to shoot on over to James, and we're going to leave you with a big male lion. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Well, the lionesses are so sleepy. Look at them, they're so tired. And if you look carefully, you can see a bit of red there on the shoulder, and then on the one to the left of that, on the belly. And that is because, everybody, they tried to kill a buffalo last night, and they obviously got quite close to killing it. But in the end, the buffalo got away, and we actually found that buffalo. I'm not sure if you saw it with Taylor earlier on, but the buffalo was very severely injured by these lions, and indeed the lions of the pride, or the same pride, of course, the lionesses that had the little cubs, they helped in the attempt to kill the buffalo, and I know that because they also were covered in a bit of blood. Hello Clinton, you want to know if lions are the biggest paws of all the predators? Well, they do out here, but a tiger's paws are a bit bigger than a lion's, and I would say of all the carnivores in the world, the one with the biggest paws is probably a grizzly bear, but obviously those are only found in North America, and well, also in the north parts of Russia, and the grizzly bear, of course, includes polar bears. It's the same species of bear, just a white one, in the same way that a white lion is white, I suppose. And they have the biggest paws. And so, although, say, a tiger's paw is the same size as my hand, you'll find a bear's will be twice the size of that. Shamila, I'm afraid I missed that question. We're going to have to ask for it again. Somila? Somila, you want to know how many teeth lions have? Boo, I actually couldn't tell you how many teeth lions have. I can tell you that they've got 4 incisors, which are the front top teeth and bottom teeth. So they've got 4 of those, and then they've got 4 canines. So what's that? That's 8, and plus 4 is 12. The canines are the very sharp, nasty teeth that you know they use for killing. Then I think they, if I'm not mistaken, they've got 3 sets of molars and premolars on each side. So I was up to 12. 3 times 4 is 12 is 24, and then I believe I'm 6 short, so they're 30 teeth, I think. 30 teeth. That's come through with a bit of help from Louise in the final control. So we've got 30 teeth in a lion's mouth. That's quite a lot of teeth, isn't it? Hello, Reedwin. What a very good question from you. You say, why is it that lions have a mane? What's the point of a male lion having a mane like that? Reedwin, the point of a male lion having a mane like that is for protection. So it's not quite the same as a male human having a beard, but that's for protection. What that does is he spends his life fighting, you know. He fights off other males from his territory, and that huge sort of mop of hair around his head helps to protect his neck and face when he's having a fight with another male lion. That's the main reason they have the mane. And then there's a secondary reason, and that is that it turns black. You can see that some of it there is going dark, and that darkness is caused by testosterone, which is the male hormone. And the darker that mane is, apparently, the more attractive he will be to female lions. So that's why we think lions have manes. But it's largely for protection. You do get some males who don't have manes at all. That's very unusual, but it does happen. And so that's very strange, and it can make them quite a bit more aggressive, or more threatened. They become a little bit more nervous of things because they don't get the same respect that a big male lion like that does with his big mane, because he looks so much more impressive with a mane like that. I think it also makes them look slightly bigger. So the bigger the mane is, obviously, the more they can con or fool other lions into thinking that they are very large indeed. Now, it's a blustery day. I don't think that these lions are going to move very far from here at all. I believe that they're going to lurk around here for the rest of the day, because that's what lions do best, of course. They do a lot of sleeping. That's going to be it from us, everyone. Thank you for joining us from Yeovil School and Rodine. It's been wonderful to chat to you, and I hope you will be able to join us again. I hope you have a lovely day at school there in Johannesburg. For the rest, thanks for joining us too. We will see you later on the Sunset Safari. That'll be Taylor and Jamie, Girl Power Safari. I'm off to Kenya. Viam's off on leave. Until I see you again, stay safe and happy wherever you are.